Right. It's gonna be a shorter stream today, I hope. Unless it goes like last night. We signed off last night after spending 30-40 minutes trying to connect to a database. And just like I said, as soon as I stopped the stream, figured it out maybe 2-3 minutes afterwards, went ahead and started it up and made a part 2. And the short of it is I had the container configured incorrectly, so it wasn't binding the host port to the container port. So when we were getting password fails, error message, I was actually connecting to another working container that was configured correctly. So that was a thing. I also went ahead and hunted down the migration template that I was talking about before we ended the stream. So I went ahead and put this in place. Now when we make migrations, this is what we'll see rather than the connects default. So the nice thing here is like all of this is kind of tight-ended so that when we start using this connects instance, it auto-completes stuff. We don't have to stay in the documentation. But yeah, so we'll get started. So our project board today, we're going to be looking at some plumbing code, some utilities for comparing images with one another. And all I want to be able to do today is take 2 data URI and compare them and return a number between 0 and 1. So 1 is like perfect match, it's the same image. 0 is they couldn't be more different. And the idea is that when we're letting users set their password using a doodle, maybe we'll say like if it's 0.95 match, then that's a good password, or 0.9 match is a good password. We'll have to play with it. So that'll be fun when we get to that. But for now, we're going to build these data URI, give them to a function, and use resemble.js to compare them and see how it goes. So the first thing is I need to get 2 images. So kind of, let's see, I've got cat somewhere. Cat. So we'll end up making something in here. So it's a util. file called image, and we'll have a function in here called pair that takes an A and B. So let's do string. Say that, I've said. And for now, we'll just have this return 1. Alright, so let's make a test. And I'm going to create a folder in here called resources, and this is where we're going to put some of our sample images. And really, I don't even need the images. We're going to make data URIs out of them. So I'll put them in here for now, and we'll drag them out later. So there's cat. Let's find another picture of cat.
I hope you're ready for bars. Lost direction and I got no polestar. Was fighting alone, yeah, I got these scars. Was going to episode, darkness game over. Nah, not over. I was high with bad emotions. Now it's time for me to get sober. Yeah, I failed and fell down many times. Not ashamed of it, not gonna cover. In life you gotta take a step. Walk the right path, follow your map. Sometimes strangers might be friends and friends might be a trap. All you need to do is keep moving and follow your path. The darkness to see a shimmer of cold light of come to the sky and soar above how high could I miss the darkness to see a shimmer of cold light of.
Alright, so let's look up how to get a data URI out of an image. It's just base64, encode it. Yeah. Over here, say source API, utils, tests, resources, base64. So our data URI is this god-awful mess. Or at least that's the base64 encoded version of it. So if we want to say const cat so data image JPEG base64. We got that wrong for sure. There's no way I typed that right. Maybe I did. I don't know. Alright. So wait for me to tell it like, oh lord. I don't like that. So we're gonna do this in JavaScript, I bet. Node, get image, data URL. Yeah, let's do this. So let's make a function to data URL path. Then what's the file? Schools require this. This should give us a buffer. And if I wanted the base64, I should be able to do what they were doing in that code. So I don't need to convert it to a buffer. I should be able to say toString base64. So if I want the data URI, then I just need to return data image.jpg. The problem here is we don't know what the MIME type is of what we're passing in. So maybe we'll add that as a parameter. Yeah. Image to string base64. So if not file or not mine, so say file not provided. Even better, we could say if it doesn't exist. Not mine. Type error. Let's provide the MIME type for the image. Image, JPEG, image, ping, etc. So I bet there probably is a way to guess it. No guess MIME type image. But I don't want to install image magic. Interesting. we're not going to worry about it. We'll just provide it. That's fair. This isn't really important code anyway. It's just a util function to get a job done. All right, so this I should be able to. Let's go write a little test for this. So I need to module.exports equals compare. Go ahead and export that and to the URL. This will probably leave as like a private function inside this module, and compare will be the only public API on it. But you know, who gives a shit? Test can make can generate data on image. Alright. So say const.url equals, gonna bring in our image library thingamajig. Const image equals acquire dot image, and then we say to data URL const path equals acquire path. Some expectations for this. So to not to be empty sort of thing. There we go. That'll work. Does this even do what I think it does? Which is, yeah, that'll be fine. Oh, I have to actually pass in the length. Not to be an empty string. Let's go with that. So just image.test. This should pass. Unless something like horribly goes wrong. Looks like it did. Let's make this a little bit bigger. Oh, we didn't provide the MIME type. Okay, so let's stop this. Console URL. It looks right. Or it looks like a data URL. I wonder, we need to actually make sure this works. That it looks like the right image at some point. Might as well be now. So, if we want to do that, we'll come back over here and just shove it somewhere. Why not right here? So save that, and then let's start up our view server. Look at that. Works like a champ. So now how big is that thing? That's the question. Because we need to know this, because eventually we're going to store these in a database somewhere. So we'll need to have a field big enough. Whew. It's a big boy. So just remember, it's like 100,000 characters long, and that's a small picture. So we may have to store this in a blob or something stupid. Probably do like long text or text. I bet text could do it. It'd be fine. All right. So we'll leave this testing here. We'll probably remove this. We don't need it at the end of the day. I also don't need all these columns flying around there. So now let's do the comparison thing. So like I said, we're going to use resemble.js for it. And I have no idea how this works at all. But let's see, we use example images. So you give it these two images, and then it produces this, but supposedly there's a bunch of data attached to this that we'll have access to. And then somehow we will have some kind of confidence interval or percent mismatch or match or whatever, and we can kind of mess around with it. A lot of this other stuff I really don't care too much about, like how it's different or whatever. Like, you see what's happening here? Like, this is a lighter blue than this. The gradient may be a little bit different in the back, but it like highlights those things. The hair, the swoop is different. But okay. So let's go back over to the GitHub project, and we need to pull this in. So let's go ahead and do that. Before we do it, let's go ahead and do this. Okay, I'm gonna leave the if I change the mime type, does it actually get all like pissy? But it does. It'd have to, right? Because this is like binary data or whatever, base64 encoded binary data. So if I said JPG, probably work. It seems to, but if I came in here and been like, nah, bro, you're a pin, probably fails. No. Okay. So maybe it doesn't matter. Just screw it. Your text HTML. How about that? I'm really confident that's actually. It's reloading. I don't know. I'm not gonna spend any time on it. As long as the library works, we'll be good. So, the first test is we're going to compare one of these samples to itself and make sure that we have a perfect match. So test pairing two of the same image. Perfect match. Usually, okay, so I usually do not have my editor this big, this chunky, but this is a little much. Let's try doing something like this and see how it feels. I don't like this, it's freaking me out, but let's see how it feels. You can at least see the whole line. Let's wrap this into a little helper function. So, times like these are here to show. You can do things for me alone. I got your back, just take things slow. Actually, no. Wanna take mine and get close. JPEG. And here would be name. I need to make a little like alias or something. MT. Of course. Alright, so that seems to still work. Alright, so we'll say data URL sample 1 get sample data URL 1 and const sample 2. I don't even need 2 variables. What would be a good name for a return confidence? We'll say confidence equals image.compare sample to sample. And we'll rename this to sample. I have a feeling that this isn't actually going to be equal to 1 because cosmic rays or something. But yeah. So it's passing right now because we've slimed the value of this. We're always going to return 1. Let's go ahead and write a test for our for others, and then I can kind of close this test out and focus on the implementation. So if I and it also gives us a failing test, so we're comparing 2 different images. We have less than a perfect match. So I don't know what the value is going to be, but I know it'll be less than 1, which will break our this test effect. So if I come back here and say we are going to have 2 samples now, and confidence equals image compare sample 1, sample 2, expect confidence to be less than 1. Go ahead and circle this decimal. There you go. This is failed. So I'm gonna close this test now, since we've got kind of a test loop to follow. And you could do something here to get back to green. I could slime again and be like, well, if A not equal to B, then return 0.5 maybe, and then we're green again. So I'm not going to go on like a huge aside here, but it's very common when you're doing like test-driven development to get to the point where you have a failing test. You've knocked, and by failing test I mean like you've knocked out all the like this function doesn't exist type stuff. Like you're dealing with the logic, but write just enough tests to kind of prove some basic functionality. Have your failing tests, and then you slime them to get them green. And the goal from that point forward is to keep them green. So no matter what I do here, I have to keep this green. Now in practice, I don't personally see a whole lot of value in test-driven development, but that comes with a caveat that I've been doing it for a long time. I'd say starting out, it is worth being kind of overly judicious about following TDD, but it's one of those things like once you learn to ride that bicycle, you don't need the training wheels anymore. You know kind of what needs to be tested, what's valuable to test, and what isn't. So stick with it starting out, but over time you'll build a good instinct for writing tests. Yeah. So let's actually pull in our library and start doing some stuff. So coming back over here, we need to look up how the hell we use this thing. So my first impression is I have no idea if this is synchronous or not. I'm feeling like it ain't here. So it may be a good idea for us to make our function return a promise that we can resolve this value. But let's keep on reading and we'll see if they have like a async or a sync version in the library. Single callback API. Okay, that's neat. So instead of doing this like fluent interface builder thing, you can instead just call this function. And it's doing the same thing. But this is still looking like a callback based. Oh, here you go. API internet is the same. Oh, so is this meant to be used in the browser, I guess? Maybe. If they're calling this out specifically as Node. So we'll just do this. Since they think it's a good idea, we will think it's a good idea. I have no idea what any of these options mean. At all. I do know we'll probably, if we think about our doodles, we probably want them scaled to the same size. This doesn't matter though. Because the idea, going back, the component, they're going to see like some backgrounds, like a pretty mountain scene or a field or something, and then they'll draw, something on top of it. It's hopefully safe for work. We'll never know because we're just going to see the data URI and compare those. But in that case, I wouldn't want to scale it to the same size, maybe. Yeah, so let's try it without options and just see what happens. So
I'm tired.
mirror images.
Of feeling low. I've been drinking
Rip it all.
trying to forget all the things ain't right. But there's a fire. I feel the glow, and I swear it's there to remind
The thing is where's my data at? Maybe get buffer is actually building out like the binary data, but that data object has more on it. Let's just get find out. So this is going to have to be an async function because we're going to need to await this call here. So the first thing we're going to change here is we're not doing these reads like they are. The library says it supports data URI, so we're going to do that. So this should be a big empty object, because I'm not going to configure anything. And that should be it. I don't want to even write the output, I just want to deal with the data. So how about here, just console log data. So I do want to come back and be like, there's going to be a way to like attach debugger to jest running, and then I can just be like, whoop, and it would write for me. But what's this bitching about? Oh, we haven't installed the module. Okay. Actually, while we're waiting on that to install, how about I just go look up how to debug inside of jest? Production dependency. VS Code, debug, jest.
I've got a life to live.
Promising.
I've got a life to live. I've got a life to. We've got one life to.
We'll adjust this, but this is exactly what it looks like in the font somewhere.
One life to live. We've got one life to live. We've got
only issue is I bet the output, I hope the output is not absolute trash with this. And I actually don't need this whole thing, I just need this. So, let's go over here, let's kill these. Awesome. Very awesome. So it looks like it is actually gonna, like, if I continue this, the output will stay in this terminal. And it's probably that, you know, go away. Stop that. Oh, yeah. Oh. Doesn't watch, doesn't stay running. Let me see if we can fix that. I bet this freaks it out. They do restart. True. Although, should do the same thing here. Maybe it's redoing it because I know, what's this again? Better again, but it's let's try it without and see what happens. Taking that watch is happening while Jess is running. Jess should be running the entire time. So the process shouldn't die. So now if we lean back over here and set our breakpoint and then save. Look at that. I like it. Jess is still a little slow. I don't know why that's doing that, but it's not a now problem. Maybe I'll fix that and figure out what's going on with that off stream. Okay, so same dimensions, mismatch percentage 0.00. So it can't be this easy, but I almost think we could do raw mismatch percentage and like literally return 1 minus raw mismatch percentage, and that's probably it. So we'll see where test pass. All right, so what did we do wrong? We received an object we called image compare. It's probably the promise that we're not awaiting, if I had to guess. So that means we need to go back to our test and just fix that. So this needs to be an async function. Wait. We're tracking. Let's pass. So we can compare two functions. Just out of curiosity, I'm interested in what this value is so that we can tighten this up a little bit. And also just to have a figure in my head. So confidence is negative 98. So we need to fix that because our confidence is supposed to be 0. So instead of setting our breakpoint here, let's go back and set our breakpoint here. Tracking. All right, so this is when they're the same. Well, we do something fancy. If so, A not equal B. So I don't know if you've seen that before, but like VS Code lets you set conditional breakpoints, which is very useful because since we're running both those tests, this compare function is called twice, and we only care about this second one. Now, the other way I could have gone about that is just filter the tests that run down to that other function, or the other tests that we're looking at right now. But this is the cooler way to do it. So, raw mismatch percentage. I wonder, let's call wait compare images. Wait, compare images. Yeah. Is that another thing? Okay, there we go. Smooth equals that. It would have been nice if I could have done that. We'll just do this for now. So, you need to make sure I get my math right here, but since this is percentage, we need to convert this to decimal, so we'll divide it by 100. And then we should be good. So, if I do that, back to our test. Set our breakpoint here and see what our confidence is, and it should be like super low. So yeah, 0.005, blah blah blah. So let's get a doodled cat and play with that. That should be more similar. So if I grab cat, we come in here and we draw. Okay, so now let's try to make the same doodle again. But it's obviously going to be like a little bit different. But this will be interesting because confidence should be pretty high here. But if I did something like blah, blah, then it should be not good enough. So this is the thing, like we're going to play around with this. I think it's an interesting idea. It might just fall flat on its face. It may not work functionally because if you look, like our tolerance is going to have to be so high because the majority of the image does match. So let's come back over here. Test two different rules are similar. Possible. The point of having like a background image for this concept is so that you have reference points from where to start drawing and all that. Something else you'll kind of notice, which we're not going to refactor now, but we've got basically the same-ish code duplicated over and over and over. And we're probably going to delete, like we're going to delete some of these tests for sure, but your test code is just as important as your project code. So a lot of stuff like this, it is wise to go ahead and wrap this up in like a test utility. And even if it's local to this test, like we did for the get sample data URL, it cleans things up and makes it more readable. This isn't that bad though. It just feels like you're writing the same code over and over again. As we are. So we got doodle doodle. Let's do this and save. And see what our confidence is. It should be like, I would hope for 90, 95. So this might actually work. You would have to say like, let's make one more doodle. Let's do a doodle that's like an X. Oh Lord. Delete this. Fall. The original. We don't. One second, grab that image again. Actually, log you into Slack. Just grab my profile image. And didn't want, company chat flying up on the
I swear
stream
I'll
there.
never make that same mistake. I'm always lost in my own head space. I know it's gonna make my heart ache, but only thinking what I wanna say.
Replace.
When I'm high, I get low. 'Cause
All right.
I know that I'm not with you.
Coding.
Let me go to where I call home in the
All right. So now let's pull up the cat again, and we will do we'll make a Bob Ross mountain.
I thought I left you, but all that's left is pain instead. While you're sleeping on in pieces,
Stop it.
you call up again.
It's your painting, so you can do what you want. So I'm gonna put a tree.
Oh, I could tell you honestly.
Happy little branches.
While I'm sinking in my head.
Maybe not that one else.
Thought this was never
Very
gonna
scary
end
branch.
for me.
There. All right. So there's cat 2.
You're stuck inside my head.
Bob Ross.
I thought I left you, but all that's left is pain instead. While you're sleeping,
All right. So now what we're gonna do
you call
is
up again.
run a new test.
Trapped in the basement, my
Test 2 different doodles. And the same background. So 2 doodles from 2 dissimilar doodles on the same background.
When I'm
Are not
high, I
really
get
matched.
low because I'm not over you. When I'm home, I'll be on my own while you're with someone new. Oh, you're stuck inside my head. I thought I left you, but all that's left is
say this should be 2 I don't know. See, like that's right there the issue. You know, that's a 92% confident match. So I think if we do this, the confidence is going to either have to be really high to the point it'll be easy to forget your doodle, which, you know, you forget your password every day. Or we do some tricky shit like force the user to have a certain doodle length or doodle coverage over the background image. So imagine we give them like an ink tank or something, and they have to deplete the ink tank onto the image. That actually might be interesting to do. So the idea is that you're like forced to create dissimilarity to create more of a match or whatever. So maybe we'll do that. That seems fun. But either way, I bet 95% is probably our bare minimum. It's our bare minimum. So we'll say this is less than 95%. So something else you'll notice, like in a lot of code, you'll end up with like these, we call them magic numbers, but you end up with just numbers floating around everywhere. And it may be a good idea to give some of these names. So if we said const perfect match equals 1.0, then I would just come back through here and replace that. So expect confidence to be perfect match. Well, I can always find it, but this like reads now, it's like straight up English. Everything's cool. So we could also say to be good enough for password match is 0.95. So this one, it's kind of, this one's awkward to read a little bit, I guess. It's like to be greater than or equal, like, good enough for a password match, but less than good enough for a password match. So this is overkill as shit, but like you kind of get the idea. Now somebody could come in here and be like, okay, I can read through this and see, you know, what exactly is going on. The next thing is, I don't want this test anymore. Having coverage over something that basically just base64 is an image and returns a string, like a template string, I don't really care too much about. And honestly, I wouldn't even put this in the public API at all if I didn't have this helper function that needed it. So yeah. Okay, so that's that. So let's look at what we've got. What changed in README? Oh, I added the playlist. Yeah, I've been exporting these to YouTube every night stream. I've got a playlist of them, so putting that in the README. Oh, I forgot. We didn't make a branch. We need to do that. So this is episode 3. No, 2. The doodling. Now, let's come in here and say VS Code launch. And launch it to debug running test. May not always do that. It's kind of neat, and it does look all right. So maybe we will, but I I'm sure every now and then I'll just by habit run chest and then something. Let's go to our reading in. Add live playlist. Depend on reasonable JS4 image matching. Then this change the source app view we just toss. Then here's our implementation. Implement. Image comparison function that returns. I'm thinking of like grammar is like 201 referencing how good of a match depending on match confidence. So it returns a confidence score between 0 and 1. There's a match confidence score between 0 and 1. Yeah, that's perfect. This is a long code message. It's longer. I'd like it. It's fine. S1E2 the doodling. Alright, let's pop over to GitHub real quick and see what else we got. This is probably the only thing I'm going to work on tonight, which is a little sad, but we'll double check. So let's see, find migration, yeah, we did that. That's done. So, blah blah blah. Okay, so we're gonna break this one up a bit, because yeah, we did plumbing tonight to get our kind of basically the function the backend's gonna use to verify our passwords, basically like these gesture images, whatever. So we did this kind of bottom part down here. Maybe tomorrow we'll come back and do the front end drawing and all of that. It's either going to be that or I go ahead and build out this basic authentication, Assetto tokens, user model, that thing. So let's see, let's go ahead and snap off a card for create a function that Alright, so we got that. We can come in and slim this sucker up a little bit.
Maybe you would say that I'm not what you need. And it may be true, 'cause we don't get a
So let's
chance.
say,
It's like I don't know.
implement front end component 2% canvas with some swappable background images. Visual pick a color, or shape onto the image. So done. So once they are done, the component will provide the data URI for We're not going to send it to the back end yet. It'll just be a front end component. We'll do that. We will save sending it to the back end for this authentication stuff. So the way this will probably shake out over the next few days is tomorrow we'll come in, we'll do this front end component. That'll probably take us an hour because I'm not good with Canvas, and there's going to be some like interactivity stuff, and we've got to do this ink bullshit now because that's just too cool not to do. But we'll do the front end component tomorrow. We'll do some plumbing for setting up kind of our user model, adding some fields to our table, and setting up some Passetto token authy things. And then if we have time, the day after tomorrow, we'll go ahead and like look in the front end. But I'm hesitant to do that because I don't want to get too involved in the front end, like look and feel stuff right now. I really do want to focus on the functionality, and a lot of that's going to be just in the API. We're going to kind of build a REST API for everything first, and drive that out through tests, and then we'll come back and spend a few days on, actually cloning the front end, or cloning Slack and making it look just right, playing around with that. I just know like you can do both at the same time. In my mind, I like to switch gears completely and just really focus on front end when it's time. So I kind of want to focus on these tools below so that I'm not distracted by that whenever we get into the front end stuff. Component, blah, blah, blah. I want to mention the ink tank idea. So we don't need this anymore because we just set all that up there. So we noticed that very different doodles on the same background aren't that different as far as confidence score goes. So we need a way of making the user draw more or more possibility. Basically, they need to cover more of the canvas is the issue, because whatever they draw will be different. So this may go away if the pen size was just, sausage finger sized or something, and not like this like hairline or whatever. So we'll see. We'll doodle some things, take some data URIs and plug them into our test and see how they do. But yeah. But I really like the idea of the ink thing, just because like I have this visual immediately in my head of like I'm drawing and I see the little like animated liquid draining out of the tank or something, even though it doesn't make a damn bit of sense. Call it like the whack meter or something. So in a way of making the user draw, let's say cover more of the background ish on the canvas. Or we need to use it thicker so that it just kind of naturally happens. The risk there is like they cover too much, and then we have the same problem in reverse, right? So like imagine users like, I don't want to do a gesture, I'm just going to paint the whole damn image, and now someone else has that idea and they paint the whole image. So there's probably like that again kind of reinforces that idea of you have limited ink. And this is like, we're feature creeping a little bit here, but it's kind of like, when you're doing development a lot of times, especially product development, you want to let yourself dream a bit and like go down, but then you've got to engage that developer aspect and be like, okay, we need to roll this shit back and be like, what's the actual, we've dreamed out 5 iterations. One, what's the critical path? Like, what's the actual to fulfill or to validate this idea? Like, what's the minimal amount of work we need to do to get this out there? But yeah, I think it's on both sides. We wanna have them draw more, but not too much. So the ink kind of puts that cap on the other side. So you tell them you have to use all this ink, but we don't give them enough ink to over cover. But we force them to cover just enough. So yeah, that may be like a requirement, but we don't know yet. So I'm gonna throw this back on the backlog. Something I don't want to spend too much time talking about the project management shit, but when you're working on projects with your team, you're gonna. This isn't like you're not gonna write these stories up and they're right the first time you write them. And if you notice, like this isn't doing that. Like as a blah blah blah, I want to blah 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 so that I can blah blah blah. You can do that. It's kind of like TDD. Like do that to kind of get in the groove or whatever. But after you do it a while, it's like just write what's on your heart. Like just put it out there. Say what you mean. But don't overthink getting it right. That's why like a lot of these cards are a little bit longer. But you can always break these up after the fact, like we just did. So and different teams will call these different things. Like a team might say, well, this is an epic, and there's actually like 2 or 3 stories inside of this or whatever, and you would need to like break this up as part of your sprint planning or whatever. But I guess the takeaway is don't overthink this shit. This is just a tool. Project management, Agile, Scrum, whatever you want to use or pay to get certified in. It is a tool that is supposed to provide value back to you, your team. So if it doesn't, either change it to fit your team. Yeah, there's no or, just change it to fit your team. Or don't do it at all, I guess. But let's see, let's go check out our pull request that we didn't open. The doodling. Utilities and tests that will allow us to compare two doodles. This is going to be used by the faculty to verify. Matches their account. So we got some links. We're going to link out to the Resemble.js package. Let's say VS Code, debug jest. That might be useful for somebody. Specifically right there. And something else we looked at. Go with this. All right. Not bad. Not bad. Tonight went smooth. I mean, we're sitting at an hour 10 right now. Probably an hour of actual playing around. This ain't bad for the amount of talking and bullshitting I did. And this is a pretty important piece of work that we're going to use. It's funny, we've actually got more test code than we have actual code, and there isn't a whole lot of complexity here. So that's something I found, like, as I get more experience. It's I used to think like, oh, I need to write like 1,000 or 2,000 lines of code to be like productive and feel like I did something. A lot of the time now I feel like I'll write like a few lines of code and I feel just as productive, because the time's mostly spent now like working with other developers and mentoring and talking through problems and all that. So as you kind of ride that teeter-totter, don't feel like you're not doing your job by not writing like thousands of lines of code a day or whatever. But anyway, I'm gonna get out of here. It's 12:01. Happy New Year's. Anyway, we'll be back tomorrow to do some either front end work or back end work. I think we're gonna do that front end canvas stuff and give that a shot tomorrow, and that's gonna go horribly. So yeah. Anyway, y'all have a good one.